Okay, tree ID. Gonna do a little walk in the park and talk about trees. Oregon grape. Good plant, good flower. Been hacked, but he'll take it. They can take about anything. State flower for Oregon. Oregon grape. Pretty. Red bud. Redbud's a good street tree. This is not really a tree because it's multi-stem, but they are generally a multi-stem. This thing got hacked on and all the suckers are coming back. So they're trying to make the most of it, which is fine. That's cool. And use your plant material to the best of your advantage. And they draw bees. Redbuds draw bees. Here's the first flower of a redbud. Redbud does not like wet feet. They absolutely have to have good drainage. And this is an odd one. This is a shrub, but still, redbud. Clearly they took down something that was a problem here. It's better than keeping it. Looks like they had arborvitas, dead arborvitas. Or a cedar. I don't know. Junk. Oh, this is a nice little park though. I'm just going to do a quickie. It's a hornbeam. European hornbeam. It's a nice tree. Washington hawthorn. Messy. Wait a second. Excuse me. Crabapple. It's a crabapple. That's why it's so thick. Hard to tell your trees when they don't have the leaves, but some of them do look alike. Some of them do. Imposter trees. But this is clearly a crabapple. There's a little crabapple right there. Crabapple. And these things require pruning. Like every year. How thick that is. This crabapple. It's a good tree though. Nice little crabapple. Coast redwood. One of the two redwoods. Coast redwood. In a park. That's, probably 20 years old right there at most. Coast redwood. He's got a little shoot coming up next to him. Another crabapple. Pretty hard to miss a crabapple. Even at a young age, they can become a problem. Look at that. This is every year deal to get that back to check. That's a mess. Crabapple. I believe this is a European hornbeam. A little quicker variety than the one across the way. That one. European hornbeam. That's a problem having to cut all those suckers every year. This is one of my favorite trees. This is a Cornus mas. It's a dogwood. Yeah, it's dogwood. Dogwood. Cornelian cherry dogwood. See? Cornelian cherry dogwood. It's one of the very first flowers in spring. It's Cornelian cherry dogwood. And that, that's probably 10 years old, that one. They bloom yellow, but the first growth is this right here. Cornelian cherry dogwood. Everybody knows this tree. If you don't, you should. It's Bradford pear. Look at that. Got to be one of the most overplanted street trees in North America. And yeah, right now it's worth having them. They're really, really pretty in the spring. Pretty resilient to about anything too. They're really tough. That's an older one. That's probably 25 or more. 30. Bradford pear. These things have limb failure issues, so you can already see it starting to do that. They grow so fast and the crotches are so narrow that when they get of size, they'll have limb failure issues. The limbs will just fall right off them. And once the branches reach half the diameter of the main stem, really even a third of the diameter of the main stem, the summer water pulls them up in the canopy and they get that summer limb drop because there's just too much weight up in there. And narrow crotch, you want to watch out for a narrow crotch. See, this is what you call a narrow crotch right here. Look at that. That's a narrow crotch. You can already see it starting to happen. See that split? That split? And that split? And that split? I mean, it's kind of like silver maple. At a point, you're like, how do I even do? You know, you can't maintain that. You just got to pull them down, get rid of them, start over. The narrower the crotch, more likely for included bark. This has got to split all the way down already. And they just, you know, ice, wind, snow, excess water on a 105-degree day. So a lot of guys could either mitigate that by cabling it. Can't really prune that out. That's a bummer. Red oak, northern red oak, still pretty good size for the location. I mean, honestly, I think this tree was here before the park. This park's only about 20 years old. But northern red oak. Another Cornus moss, Cornelian cherry dogwood. Hardly even grown, just barely started to grow. And winter ID in trees is actually really difficult. Some of them are telltale. The way you tell this one is it's the first one to bloom in spring. And there's a few Cornus moss. This one's just Cornelian cherry. But there's a giant Cornus moss. It's got red bark, almost like a coral bark, red bark. The new growth is bright red. This is, I mean, clearly old. There's your red, if you can see that. There's your Cornus moss. See that? Red bark. But the gigantic dogwood, the Cornus moss gigantica, however you say it, is like bright red. Like even the quarter-inch stems will be bright red. It's really awesome. This is a bird poop. What? No, that's a bird poop. That's how a bird put that there. It's bird poop. It's a cherry tree. Bird was somewhere eating cherries. Come over here and there you go. Even bird poop becomes a tree. But in the right spot, it's worth keeping. Of course, right now you can't tell. It's just starting to grow, but that'll actually have cherries. That's a real fruit tree, cherry tree. Yeah. I like when people keep bird trees. And it's going to feed the birds. It's kind of ironic. The bird put it there, and the bird's going to come back and eat it. Maybe he knew what he was doing. But I just don't know this tree. Yellowwood. I mean, even parks have a good... Sometimes you'll find stuff in parks that you don't find very often. I don't know if that's a really common tree, but I've been doing tree work for 20 plus years. I've never seen a yellow wood. Maybe in the book. Cladastris kentuckia. I wonder who recommended that, honestly. And if this thing's 10 years old and that's all it's done, I mean, the soil here doesn't drain at all. So, you know, the first thing you think about when you plant trees is what is the soil like? Does it drain? Is it standing water in the winter? Is there pathogens you have to worry about? Is it street tree friendly? Of course, we're at a sidewalk, but is it street tree friendly? Can you mow around it? Can you mow under it? This is probably one of those, we got to put a tree in just for diversity, even though they really didn't think about if it would grow here or not. That's fine. I just went over that one. You know what that is? You know what that is? It's crabapple, Malus floribunda. The bark on a crabapple is pretty much unmistakable. And does that look like an apple? Isn't that apple? Yeah, for sure. They graft to themselves. Like apples are just resilient. An apple is a rose tree. Essentially, it's a rose. Rose and apple are Rosaceae. And a wander, ponder, prune. That's how you learn. You learn on roses and you learn apples. The best way to learn how to prune is these trees right here because they're so forgiving. You come back and you can see if you did a good job or not. And you can really turn them into something awesome if you put time into them and come back and crown clean them and crown thin them and do a good job. This isn't a good job, but it's a street tree, park tree, and I don't think they've allocated the budget for a proper pruning. I could spend 2 hours on that tree right here. And you'd probably pull half the canopy out of it. Not any height, you wouldn't reduce it in size or anything, but it needs to be able to breathe. This thing's so choked out. You know, birds should be able to fly through it. And all the limbs really need to be not touching or not crossing. You see how many crossing branches we have? Look at that mess, dude. Looks like the wilderness. No, we're at the park. We're at the park? No, we're at the wilderness. But it's good for birds, good for wildlife. Feeds everything. Crab apples. You can eat them, they're bitter, but they're fine. Doug fir, clearly. Nice tree. It's still young. Probably 20. It's kind of pitching out. When plants are having problems, they'll pitch out. See that pitch right there? Yeah, that's their defense mechanism. And all conifers will pitch out when they start getting under stress. You got to watch out for that. That's fire hazard 101. I could just light that with a lighter and it would take right off. Like it would just take right off. And all this crap up in here would be a firebomb. And we're in a city park and we're just, meters from homes. I don't think they thought that tree through. I really don't. But we got to have shade. You can't just put a brand new park in and not have shade. So they're probably keeping it. It's just Doug fir. I just don't think they planted it. It's also probably bird poop. But there's a new park here. It's a Bradford pear sticking out over there. It's a nice little park. We live in a really nice little park. This area is really nice. But you have turf maintenance issues, clearly. And the less you take care of it, the more the things you don't want grow. Which this is natural. Moss doesn't hurt a thing. You don't worry about moss. It doesn't hurt a thing. It's unsightly. I mean, unless you're in a Japanese garden, you fertilize that in a Japanese garden and hand weed it, this right here. I can make it look really nice. But it's just junk right now. It hasn't been maintained. And this is ponderosa pine. There's Radley hiding from the camera. That's my son. It's ponderosa pine in a park. Again, why would you put a pitch bomb in a park? Same thing as Doug fir. Under stress, all they're gonna do is pitch out. And this is like literally fuel. Boom, yeah. One sparkler would be all it takes to make a big mess here. And pine, ponderosa pine. The way you tell ponderosa pine is it's got 3 needles. 3 needles. That's how you ID pines, is by the needles. Long 3, ponderosa. And we call ponderosas yellow bellies when they get to be of size, like 2, 3, 4 feet across the butt here. This is tiny. But down by Crater Lake, there's some yellow bellies. And they are some magnificent trees. Huge, huge, huge. 100 feet before the first limb, 4 foot across the butt. And really they get this exfoliating, orangutangy yellow belly. This doesn't do it justice here. This is probably like a developer delight kind of thing. They put them in just so the other trees take off, get the other stuff growing, and then they'll come and cut it down. Which, you do with what you can. It costs a lot of money to plant trees, especially in a new area. Establishment's a war. It takes 6 years to get something to take. Paperbark birch. Betula peperifera. So I like this tree a lot. You know, we got problems with the bronze birch borer. They're here now, and they'll leave little D marks, little D wounds in the tree. You'll see little tiny D indentations coming out, and it's a grub that lives inside the tree, bronze birch borer. So if you walk around, and this is for white birch, river birch, paper birch. This is not a long-term tree. I've had guys ask me, should I cable that? I'm like, don't. Why would you ever even bother? 30 years is going to be gone, unless it's in an area where no one's going to touch it, because these things are so temperamental. They don't like anything. Like a cottonwood, black cottonwood here, right here. You can tell this is wetland. So the landscape planner thought this out. You got wetland plants right here. This is probably also bird poop. Black cottonwood, and that is literally like 10 years old. That's a baby. There's some black cottonwoods around the Willamette near Eugene that are nothing but scary big. And I mean terrifyingly scary big. I'm glad I've never had to climb any of them. I have taken down a couple of black cottonwoods that I've prayed in. Like, and I don't pray much, but I've been up in there and I'm praying because they're that scary. But the river birch. Look at this. River birch. Look, that's not what you do to a tree. See that center, how they prune the center out of that tree? See how there's no middle leader? The one thing you want to do when you're pruning a tree is maintain the center leader above all else. And a lot of the guys, they'll say, oh, we got to top it. Well, I could go on a whole video about topping. So this might have been storm damage, but I kind of doubt it. Like, this is a lot better right here. This is a nice river birch. They're tiny, you know, they're probably all the same age. So here's river birch. And then we've got this double top in this river birch, which is going to create problems because competition between both tops, and one of them will end up ripping out under a storm. So the way to do it is to maintain the center leader. You know, take off the suppressed leaders and keep the strongest or the apical leader. That's a B, and that's an A. That's a good one. That's a really nice one. River birch. But so anyways, I want to get out and just get started on the tree ID. It's not real thorough or thick reporting. Just walk around and talk about, you know, developer delights, I guess, today. Pretty nice today. And more Oregon grape. Almost my favorite plant. Anything that blooms yellow, I think, is worth keeping. Oregon grape. Oregon grape. That Oregon grape. And it'll put on berries. They're really bitter, but later in the year you'll get these little blue berries. This plant's native here, and the Indians used to eat them. I think they made jam out of them. But you would have to ferment them to get them sweet. Apparently that's a creeping Oregon grape. I don't see how, though. I guess that means the runners are starting. That's probably the native Oregon grape, creeping Oregon grape. So yeah, nice little start. Nice little park. Looks like this is a linden tree. Yeah, linden tree. Hard to tell when it's winter, right? That's an older one. These grow so fast, though. These grow so fast. This is probably 25. You can tell the moss on the stems. And linden trees. There you go. Linden trees got the little helicopter things. When you drop them, they make little helicopters. You know, those, like when you drop the leaves, they make little helicopters. See that? Yeah. So, okay. Thanks for watching.